Sanitation Department's Deputy Minister, Sello Seitlholo, is on an oversight visit in Limpopo. Tests are being conducted for contamination as well as pollution of water courses and the progress of water supply intervention projects, in particularly Waterberg and Mopani district municipalities. Let's get an update now with the Deputy Minister now, Sello Seitlholo, who joins us now. Sello, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. Let's just get a sense of why exactly you thought this was a great idea, to go into Limpopo particularly, in these districts, and to find out if there could be any kind of contamination or pollution.
Now, let me thank you very much for the opportunity and greet all the viewers. So over the past 10 or so months, based on the delegations that were given to me by the executive authority, that is Minister Phemi Majodina, particularly in respect of Section 19 of the National Water Act, which is to make sure that our water resources are not polluted, and that we look into setting up a national polluter registries and extend that to the principle, the implementation of the principle of the polluter pay principle. So what we've essentially been doing over the past 10 months or so is crisscrossing the country, looking at the no drop, blue drop and green drop report in terms of the outcomes of the water and sanitation in Daba, which was held on the 27th and 28th of March respectively, in us working together with water services authorities in trying to really address the issue of pollution of our water resources and making sure that we're able to also address the issue of the collapsing infrastructure, illegal connections that are leading to lack of water reliability across many communities and businesses in the country. And specifically in the context of Limpopo, we know that from a green drop point of view, 78% of Limpopo's wastewater treatment works are identified as either critical or dysfunctional. What that then means that Warabile is that we have then 78% of those that infrastructure that is essentially discharging raw or partially treated sewage into our water resources, making it effectively difficult for our water resources to self-remediate, and to also make it more expensive to treat water to potable standards across these particular water resources.
So you already know that there's a problem ultimately with the water, the health of the water in Limpopo. The ultimate question here is the extent to that. And once you find that out, what exactly can be done? Can it be fixed? Can it be stopped? Or is that what you're trying to find out here?
I think one thing that must remain clear, and we almost often have to say this and remind South Africans that in terms of the Constitution, municipalities or local government with municipalities as institutions of that sphere of government are constitutionally mandated to provide services of water and sanitation. And as the National Department of Water and Sanitation, we're obviously responsible for the management of the water resource. Now, as it relates to the contamination of our water resources, and we've seen, as I use Gauteng as an example, those municipalities in Gauteng combined are discharging roughly about 1,500 million liters of raw sewage into our water resources. Hence, you see the state of the hardest working river in South Africa, that is the Vaal River, in the state in which it is in now. Hence, we see the current state of the water hyacinths and other alien invasive species in Harties Dam. What that has then necessitated the department to do is to have a look at its principal legislation as in the context of the National Water Act, as well as the Water Services Act. So because we understand that there has been a decline in as far as wastewater treatment works is concerned across the country, not only in Limpopo, we've now taken a decision to amend the National Water Act to make sure that we are able to hold municipal managers, mayors, personally accountable and liable for the pollution of our water resources. As it stands, we view a municipality legally as a juristic person. What that then means is even if a municipality such as Dipaleseng, Governbeki are fined millions of rands to correct the pollution that is happening for our water resources, it is the ratepayer that ultimately remains responsible for coughing out that particular money to correct that infrastructure collapse. So the National Water Act seeks to then put into perspective the fact that municipal managers, mayors, and other senior directors within a municipality have to carry the personal liability so that it doesn't become the responsibility of the taxpayer again. In the context of the Water Services Act, we are introducing a license for water services providers, wherein when we look at the blue drop, green drop, and the no drop report that paints water services authorities as collapsing or in a dire state, that they can then appoint a licensed water services provider to take over the water services of that particular water services authority, in making sure that, one, we attempt to, of course, professionalize the water sector at a local level, and we also encourage investment into the water sector at water services authorities level as the constitutionally mandated sphere of government to be able to undertake and provide these particular crucial services as per the constitution.
So right now we're at a point where after this inspection, you will then be able to be appointing a water services, somebody who's going to help ultimately reverse this notion or at least take it away from where it currently stands and ensure that the deplorable state of the water is fixed. Is that it?
Well, those are the amendments that we will be submitting to Parliament. We've already signed submissions that acknowledge that those need to now go to Parliament, and that parliamentary process will then need to now take place so that we can actually then include those amendments to both the Water Services Act as well as the National Water Act in order for them to fundamentally become acts and not just bills, amendment bills as it stands now. But just to add to that, Warabile, what is very significant is that one of the resolutions that we took at the National Water and Sanitation in Daba in March was for us to not theorize triple Ps, but to make them, a practicality, a reality. And in the municipality of Mogalakwena, one has seen firsthand what it actually means. We've got now one wastewater treatment works in the entire Limpopo that is actually producing quality effluent that meets the standard as set out by the Department of Water and Sanitation. And that is because of the investment that has been made by the platinum mines in the Mogalakwena local municipality that have invested over 260 million in making sure that they're able to rebuild, refurbish that particular wastewater treatment works so that there can then be an offtake of the quality effluent by the platinum mine in making sure that they're able to use that effluent for their everyday production. So that is essentially what is happening here, and that is effectively what we want to see happen across all municipalities in the country.
So all of this needs money. You spoke about it a little bit more to ensure that the taxpayer isn't continuing to have to fork out even more rands in order to get all of this sorted. What is your budget looking like, particularly when you speak about a decline in the wastewater works across many regions, including in Gauteng, where you spoke about the Val Dam?
Yeah, look, I mean, the president obviously put water as a #1 priority, which necessitated the Minister of Finance to provide over 130 billion over the coming 3 years to water and sanitation infrastructure across the country. What this has meant is that as a Department of Water and Sanitation, we've also then had to commit to making sure that the two grants that we have, the original bulk infrastructure grant, as well as the water services infrastructure grant, are made available to municipalities across the country so that we can help in assisting with the current challenges that we're facing within the water and sanitation sector. But we must emphasize the point. The developmental mandate of local government has been fairly neglected over time. What this has meant is that municipalities find themselves in the situation that they are in now, not on the side of the National Department of Water and Sanitation, what we are responsible for, which is bulk. And in terms of the water balance, the minister has said often that we are fine with only localized deficits. But the biggest challenge that we are facing is, of course, the reticulation aspect of the water that is being provided by water boards such as Lepelle Northern Water in the context of Limpopo, and also the issue in and around the non-revenue water, which sits at over 40% in Limpopo.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest problem that we are facing.
Sure.
So we have to change our focus in making sure that once we introduce that license for water services providers, that they professionalize the water and sanitation sector at a local government level,
Sure,
so that they can be able to then bring in investment. I'll make you an example. Currently, at this point in time, sludge management is not something that has been done in the country. There has to be a sense of beneficiation of sludge where we can turn it into either manure or whether we can be able to do all other things can be done using sludge. So those are the things. If we've got a reputable water services provider that is taking care of this infrastructure, I believe fundamentally and otherwise that the private sector will find it far more easier to come and invest, because currently there's no one who wants to take their money and give to municipalities simply because of the rampant nature and extent of corruption, mismanagement, etc. in municipalities.
Yeah, Sello, look, I don't think anybody would disagree with you that finding the right people to do the job here would ultimately benefit all of us as citizens as well. Then you spoke about localized shortfalls, which is an actual concern, because if you have those shortfalls starting at localized levels, they could spread and create even bigger debts then at a later level. But I wanted to just find out in closing, and if I can make this very short, will you be conducting these sort of tests then in other areas outside of just Limpopo? Will it be countrywide?
So I'm concluding my oversight inspection on a pollution of our water courses end of July in the north Cape. That will then be my 9th province. But then what we then need to do from that point onwards is to sit down as a department and look at whether we're then going to have a national anti-pollution campaign that will then bring all stakeholders on board, where we can then do the same thing that we did with the water and sanitation in Daba, but specifically now dealing with the issue of pollution.
Yeah. Sello, appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to more with regards to this.